First and foremost is to, establish the standard of what it means to be a Rhino. You walk into our building and you see all these banners, and all those banners have stories. And it's really unfortunate that we haven't hung a banner up in a while. And so it's, first and foremost, it's to reestablish that, winning here is what's expected.
Mike Rivera will continue to lead the charge for the El Paso Rhinos this upcoming season. His connection to the Rhinos and the city of El Paso runs deep. He grew up in the rink and once laced up for the Rhinos. On this episode of NA Now, we caught up with Mike on what is ahead for the hockey program and what his summer has looked like.
It's been a busy summer. We had a lot of work to do in regards to recruiting and just, getting our camp structured. We've had some changes in personnel throughout the organization, so there was some hiring going on. Keeping very busy trying to get ready for next season.
Yeah, so last season, the team ended with a 29-26, 1-3 regular season record. What were some of your biggest takeaways from that last year?
Probably just what we were able to accomplish from December, moving forward from a culture standpoint, was my biggest takeaway. There were some changes in our organization, and with that comes some cultural change and some different personalities. And we had some bumps in the road, midway through, and just the quality of character that we had in our room to push through that, through our leadership group, and then with their help and the help of our assistant and then myself, just kind of starting to establish a new culture in El Paso, really going back to what I believe the Rhino identity is. And you saw it start to really come to fruition at the end of the year. I have a belief that if we had another month of the season, we might have gone a little bit deeper in the playoff run. Like, we were really coming around and the team was really starting to buy into that culture, and you could see the impact that it had on the ice.
And for yourself, you understand the Rhinos culture because you actually played with the organization. What does it mean to be back and have the opportunity to lead the charge as a coach?
It's special. There's no other way to put it. I grew up here. I was a rink rat in El Paso. I worked at the rink from 16 all the way to the time I was done with junior hockey. Moved away, ended up playing and coaching college. And when the opportunity, arose to come back and be near family and coach in the rink that, I grew up in and stand in front of the locker room where I once sat, it's something special. It's almost hard to put into words, but the one thing that I can say is that this means a lot more to me than probably the average coach coming through these doors, just because the Rhinos, for me, that's what hockey is. It's my background. It's everything that I know, everything that I learned, came out of this building for the most part. And so now getting a chance to make a major impact on the organization, it's really special, and it's not something that I take for granted.
Absolutely. And as an El Paso native, you saw the organization grow over years, over your time of playing, and ultimately now coming back. How have you seen the organization grow from your times of playing to now coaching the Rhinos?
It's insane when you see the growth of hockey in El Paso, right? I moved away. I was gone for about 12 years. And in that time frame, the organization really took off. We were part of the Western States League when I started. I remember when we first moved into this building and laying, the dirt that, at the bottom, it was a rodeo barn, and first year the team's getting dressed in a legitimate circus tent with heaters, and slowly progressing, adding something new every single year, continuing to win, and with winning, comes a lot of opportunities to grow the program, and that's exactly what happened. And before you know it, they're winning Craft Hockeyville, adding a North American League team, we're hosting an NHL game, and now you come into this building and it's almost unrecognizable from where it was, 10, 12 years ago, even, for the guys that I played with. We have this amazing Jumbotron, these big screens on both sides of the ice. It's a pro environment, and just seeing how much of a production that this has become, it's really second to none, and it's special. And then just the impact that it's had on the community, just the amount of fans that we get, not just for the NA team, but for the NA3, this building's completely packed. Even at 4:30 on a Sunday, if our NA3 team's playing, there's 1,000 people, and it's in the heart of football season, and people are still showing up in waves to support our organization. I think it just speaks volumes of what we've done in the community.
Absolutely. Talk to me a little bit about that El Paso community, and what is the atmosphere like on game day for Rhinos hockey?
It's special. I can tell you that El Paso is unlike any other place you've ever been, and whatever you think it is, that's not what it is. It's a big city. It really is. There's almost a million people in the city, and it's hockey in the middle of the desert, and we have a predominantly Hispanic culture here. And with that, they love coming to the games. They love the violence, the hitting, the fighting. They like to partake in the concessions and what's available there, and they get rowdy. And the people here absolutely love it. To them, it's a positive and a negative. People in El Paso unfortunately don't understand hockey, at our level. But the benefit to that is to the people of El Paso. These players are professional athletes. This is the highest level of hockey they've ever seen. And so the players get treated as such. These guys are signing autographs. People are buying their jerseys. People just want to take pictures with them. And they care whether they win or lose. And these guys are rock stars, in this community. And you come in on a game day, I mean, you always know when it's going to be a sold out crowd, which is probably more than not. But, you have your season ticket holders like right in the middle of the ice and on the glass, and then those seats are empty. But when you see the two ends really start to fill up early on and there's a line out the door, it's going to be a sold out crowd, and it's an intense environment. And, you watch it on video, you explain it to people, but when you're actually here and in it, it's a whole nother feeling. Like even coming back last year, I forgot what it was like. And being on the bench, the guys can barely hear you. You really got to project because it is so loud. And, I feel bad for the guys on the other side because they're getting it, a lot worse than we are in terms of volume. So it's pretty special. It's a tough environment to play in. And like I said, it's unlike any other place you've been.
Absolutely. And with that, is there a special tradition or even event that the Rhinos put on every season that people at home need to keep their eye out for?
That's a good question. Probably one of the coolest things that we do that's specific to our culture here in El Paso is we do a Dia de los Muertos theme, which is the Day of the Dead. It's right around Halloween, and we always do a special jersey night, and it's usually like a rhino skull, which skulls are a big thing for that holiday. It's a big part of the Mexican culture to celebrate that, and it's essentially you're celebrating your ancestors that have passed away. And we always do a really cool jersey with that, and then just the way that fits into our Hispanic community, I think it's really special, and those jerseys always do very well here.
Absolutely. And looking at your experience, after your time playing juniors, you played hockey at the University of Central Oklahoma, and you also served as the head coach for that program. How does those past experiences shape you and prepare you as you head into your second season as the head coach for the Rhinos?
It's really interesting. So obviously, the playing is one aspect of it. Getting to play at a higher level, and getting to lucky enough to win a national championship as a player, and getting that experience, and then transitioning to a coach. Like one of the things at UCO was that when you were the head coach, you were also you're the GM. You're scheduling the buses. You're doing all these different things, and so it gave me a very well-rounded understanding of how a hockey team operates, and I think that was crucial. And then something interesting is my very first head coaching job at UCO was I took over midway through a season as well. We had the gentleman who started the program. He had some unfortunate health issues, and he was a mentor to me. And I knew it was coming later on down the line, but wasn't expecting it when it happened. And so kind of got thrown right into the fire, right? And that experience definitely helped me last season, being thrown into something very similar, and learning how to kind of transition a culture from where it was, make it through, the second half of a season, and then kind of start to rebuild that, and knowing the things that you have to do to hit the ground running, to start the season. I think that going through that experience before is going to pay dividends this time around, or at least I hope. But I feel comfortable with the situation having gone through it before.
Absolutely. And as you look ahead for this upcoming season, main camp wrapped up not that long ago. What has impressed you the most from the athletes you have seen?
The quality of depth that we have. We had a lot of turnover last year, just a lot of 04s. We had a couple of 05s take their school deals early, and then a couple guys decided to go different directions. And so because of that, it created a huge opportunity on our roster, a lot of spots to fill. And so it was a bigger camp, and there was a lot of drafted players that really impressed us, tenured players that impressed us, but most importantly, this is why you have camps. We had free agents that showed up and really showed out and earned their spot at our training camp, and are going to have a really good opportunity to make this team. And I think that what that taught us and what that showed us is just how important the recruiting process is, beyond your draft picks, beyond your tenders, but to try to always find the best players that are free agents and bring them into camp because they really can, slip through the cracks. And those are the guys you really want to find. And so that's been something that was a pleasant surprise, maybe something we didn't expect. But I find it to be a reward for all the work that not just myself, but our coaching staff and our scouting staff, put into finding and bringing these players in.
Absolutely. And I know you talked a little bit about how athletes are taking that next step in their hockey playing career. And last season, there was 12 athletes on your roster who secured NCAA commitments. How do you feel as a coach to see your athletes have the opportunities at that next level?
It's awesome. I mean, that's what this is all about at the junior level, is trying to move players on to the next level, whether it be, to a tier one in the USHL or to NCAA, Division III, Division I hockey, or even ACHA Division I hockey. Seeing ultimately, I believe that our jobs as coaches is to get a kid where he wants to go, within reason, obviously, right? There are limitations to that, but if a kid wants to be somewhere and it's somewhere he's going to be happy and it's somewhere that he's wanted and he's going to have a good education and a playing experience, that's ultimately what matters most. And being able to help a player get that, maybe you open a door for them that they wouldn't have otherwise had open, and then they get it, they get the scholarship, they're happy, their family's happy. That's kind of like the closed loop on where this all starts. When we're calling them in the summer, trying to get them to play for us, and then you see it come to fruition. It's pretty special. Like, in particular, our starting goalie, at the end of last year, Brendan Hollahan, like, he had a Division I commitment. Due to medical reasons, he unfortunately got decommitted, and so he's calling me on Memorial Day weekend, telling me he lost his Division I scholarship. And being able to work closely with his advisor and others to try to help him find what's next and still help him secure a Division I deal before the start of the following year, and not have to go D3 and then hit the portal. Like, being able to help him figure that out in a short time frame, like, those are the moments that it's extremely rewarding. And I could go down the list of all of our guys and all their situations, but being able to do that as a coach, it's a special feeling. It really is.
Yeah. And as you look forward to this upcoming season, what are some of your main goals that you're hoping to accomplish?
First and foremost is to establish the standard of what it means to be a Rhino. You walk into our building and you see all these banners, and all those banners have stories, and it's really unfortunate that we haven't hung a banner up in a while. And so first and foremost, it's to reestablish that winning here is what's expected, not desire. Last year we make the playoffs, year before we make the playoffs, that's great. And for some organizations that might be good enough, but for us it's not. And so reestablishing that, but I believe what that's rooted in first and foremost is our culture. Everybody talks about it. You can hang words on the wall, you can talk about it all you want, but living it every single day, and holding people accountable to it, that is the primary focus. And if you have that foundation built, you can really do some damage from there.
Absolutely. And the start of the season is quickly approaching. And one of the big events we have at the start of the season is the NA Showcase. The greatest show on ice is quickly approaching. What are you looking forward to most once you're in Blaine, Minnesota with the Rhinos?
One of the things for me in particular is getting able to coach against other divisions. Having taken over halfway through the season last year, we only played South teams. We didn't make it to Robertson Cup. So being able to compete against other divisions to me is really exciting. I think if you look at our league as a whole, each division is kind of its own animal, the South to the East to the Central. And so seeing how you stack up against some of these teams and the different kinds of players. And then there's always something special. It was like this, when I coached in college and you go to the national tournament, all the coaches are in the same building and all the teams are in the same building, competing and kind of being in this, like, almost this fishbowl, right, with everybody watching. The pressure that comes with that and the experience and the energy that you feel in the building when everybody's around and you want to perform, like, I think that's exciting. Like, pressure is a privilege in that environment, and it's something that I'm really looking forward to.
As you look back onto your past season with the Rhinos, I know taking over midseason is not easy, and you explained that, but what has been one of your favorite memories with El Paso this past year?
Some of the best memories for me would be, like, we had a very special group of 20-year-olds that last season that really led the charge and took over the leadership roles when the changes happened. And it would have been really easy for those guys to just go a different direction and take the easy way out, and watching them dig their heels in and take the harder route with the coach who they didn't know, maybe the guy they didn't come to play for, and watching them buy into what we were trying to do and establish themselves as really strong leaders, like guys like AJ Reed, Pablo Hiltonen, Cade DeWolf, Brendan Coughlin, Jacob German, like those guys. That was our leadership group. And just watching them kind of take control of the room and really become leaders of the group, like it was really special to see. And then even through the ups and downs, watching how close the team got at the end of the year and how much they wanted it, and just seeing the emotion on their faces and how much they cared, that to me was everything. At the end of it all, it's like that's what you're trying to get to. You want a locker room at the end of the year that if they lose their last game, there's tears in the eyes, and if they win their last game, even better, they're hugging each other and they're loving it. But either way, you have a room that truly cares and is truly bought into what you're doing, and to see that come to fruition through everything that happened for those guys in particular, like it's about the players and watching them get what they wanted out of this. And telling me at the end of the year that it was the best decision they made to stay in El Paso, and it shows me we're on the right track. And so that to me, that was definitely the best memory.
I love that for you all. Well, Mike, thank you for taking the time to chat with me. We're excited for this upcoming season for you, and we'll see you in a few short weeks at the NA Showcase.
Awesome. Thank you for the time.